Hello again. So this video is going to cover some of our drop-down fields and linked data fields. And in the end, what we're going to do is build an invoice system out of the stuff we're going to learn. That's going to be in future videos in this module. This particular one is just going to cover the fields themselves and some of the extra parameters that we didn't cover in some older videos. So I'm going to create a module called invoice system. And create a block called drop down and other fields. And I'll just go back and I'll just create a block called data for drop down fields. And the reason I'm doing this is because we're going to be loading this data in a different block in a drop down list. So what we'll do is we'll just say something like customer name. And what we'll also do is just give it maybe category. And I'll put that first. So now we're back in the drop down and other fields block. And I'm going to create a new field. And it's going to be drop down from block. So this field is designed to generate a drop down list of data from a different block. So I'll just say customer list. Select the block, data from drop down and other fields. So now we select the field from the other block of the data we want to get. In this case, it's customer name. And you're probably starting to get familiar with this. Only get data matching local fields. So again, this is what's used to search our lookup in the other block. Now, we don't have to do this search for this particular field. We can just get all the customer names. So I'll start by doing that, and then we'll start adding more iterations of this field. So I click submit, and I'm going to open a second window with the list so I can create it. So I'm going to go into data for drop-down fields. And I'm going to start giving them categories. I'll just say category 1, customer 1, category 1, customer 2, category 1, customer 3. I'm just coming up with generic terms so that I can show you how to easily sort them later on. So customer 4 is in category 2. And customer 5 is in category 2. So now we've 2 categories and 5 customers. So now we'll go back to this field and we'll go to the front end. And as you can see, it's listing all the customers. So using this, you can press submit and do whatever you want on this side. So you can use this data to track information in other blocks. So that's the most basic version of the drop-down field. So now let's make things a little more advanced. I'm going to create a field called first choose category. And then that's going to be a drop down from block as well. We're going to use the same block, data from drop down and other fields, and we're going to say category. And I'll press submit. Now I'm going to edit the customer list so that it only loads the data from the category you've chosen. So first, before I do that, I'll just show you. Whatever category I pick, I'm going to see all the customers. So the idea is customer list, only get matching local fields. Again, this is the same concept as all the other ways we're looking up data in the system, and you'll see this over and over. And we're saying, well, first choose category field must equal the category in the other block. So now when I go to the front end, and we'll see there's nothing here because we've no category chosen. Now I pick the category, and now I have customer 1, 2, 3, which is correct because the category 1 is customer 1, 2, 3, and category 2 is customer 4 and 5. And that's the basic principle behind that field. So we're going to get a bit more advanced again and show you some of the options. One of the options is just to show the list in reverse. So let's just submit this and come back to it. And as you can see now, it's customer 321. So remember the order, even though it's showing these latest first, the order we put them in was 1, 2, 3. And so by reversing it, it's 321. We'll untick that one. And we'll just come back again, and I'm going to put in something completely different. We'll say category 1, customer 0. So this is out of order. So now the order we've put the customer in is 1, 2, 3, and 0. If I go back here, we'll see that this order isn't in place yet. So I go customer 1 or category 1, and we have 1, 2, 3, and 0. So it's quite common that people don't want to be dictating the order of what we'll say in this case the customers. They don't want that same order to appear here. They want this in a proper order because they don't know when they'll be adding different customers. For example, let's add another one, category 1, and we'll say B customer. So I'm going to trigger this by just changing the category and changing it back to 1. And I'll do one more. And I'll show you how to reorder them then. Change it back. So this is an example of a problem. So people might say, well, I want ABC. And what you do there is go back to your field and click show sorted list. And that will then sort them in alphabetical order if it's text, numeric if it's numbers, and if it's date, it'll do the date. So you can see here there is an order in place. However, we haven't instructed it to order in what direction. So now it is going CBA, and this is technically correct because we started by creating these first. So finally we just reverse again. Now we choose category 1, and now we have ABC. So now what we're going to do is take a look at a few more identical ones. They're so identical that we will be in the future possibly merging them all as one field. So let's just show you what I mean. So I'm going to create an autocomplete field. And we're going to use the exact same block And we're going to do customer name, and we're going to filter by category again, and we'll ignore the reverse and sorted list. So when I start typing, nothing happens because we don't have any list that's been loaded. But now when I choose the customer or the category, we have this list to choose from. If I choose category 2, we have this list to choose from. Next thing we'll do is show you the exact same thing again, except this time it's going to be the radio buttons from the block. So we're going to filter again by category. So now this time I press category 1. We have our radio buttons here. We have our same thing here, and we have our same thing here. Press category 2, and we have our radio buttons for category 2. Again, all this data can be saved just like normal inside this block. So there we are down there. The final field in this section, we showed you the linked data field in a previous block or previous video. There's one here called checkboxes from block. So these three are, I would say, almost identical, whereas this one is the same principle, but it does have slightly different behavior. So it just shows a list of checkboxes. So we'll put in data for dropdown, and we'll say the customer name, and we're going to match as you can see, the layout is a bit different. And we're going to match the categories again. Press submit. So now we can pick our category again, and this time there are checkboxes where we can select multiple options, and they get saved as a comma separated list. Technically in the database it gets saved as an array of true or false values for which ones you've selected. We'll be touching on more later on what you can do with that. So there is more to these types of fields. We won't get into it in this video. We'll touch on it in a future video in this module, just so we can finish out all these type of fields. But basically it's possible to exclude data as well in a more advanced way from the list that you produce. And that allows you to do things like check off, maybe for instance, check off a bunch of things that you've done that day. So we will have a look at that in this module in a future video, but we just want to do some exercises first to get the basics done. So at that point then we'll have covered all the linked data fields as this one was covered in the previous module. Thank you. Bye bye.